Alright, I've already strung my beads, my green seed beads size 11, onto 24 gauge copper core wire, also a green color, and that is a 0.5 millimeter. And we're going to start off with our bud sepals. The pattern for the bud sepals is 8 continuous loops using 1.5 inches of beads per loop. And 1.5 inches is about 3.8 centimeters. So just like as usual with our continuous loops, we are going to leave a small 2 to 3 inch tail right at the beginning. And then we are going to measure out 1.5 inches of beads. Oh, dang it. 1.5 inches of beads for our first loop. And we are going to fold it in half, pinch it closed, and then twist 1, 2, 3. And that is the first sepal. And we're going to put these sepals a little bit closer together than we would with normal continuous loops. We're doing this because we don't want the hole in the middle of our unit to be very big. So we're going to scoot our little loops a little bit closer together. So just leave a little bit of space, just enough to make some twists. And we're going to measure out 1.5 inches of beads for the second loop. And I'm going to pinch and hold all those beads together with my thumb and forefinger so that no gaps form between any of my beads. And then I'm going to twist the 2 wires below. 1, 2, 3 twists. All right, so let's see how those loops are a little bit closer together than with the normal continuous loop. And we're going to do that again. One and a half inches. Leave a little tiny space. Fold. Squeeze it closed, pinch and hold, and twist, 2, 3. We're halfway there. We need 4 more loops. Alright, so there I've got 8 1.5 inch continuous loops, and I've spaced them a little bit closer together than normal. And now we need to close our unit. And this time we're just going to loop over that that first loop with our working wire. Loop around it once. Make sure you are looping around it and not crossing over the front of those beads. Alright, and then we're just going to twist the working wire and that starting tail wire together just a little ways down. You don't need to go all the way down. And then we can cut from our spool. And I'm going to clip it a little bit shorter than my starting tail wire. It just helps to, for the wires to taper down the stem so you don't get a lot of bulk, and you don't want them ending up and you don't want them to end at the same spot, or you're going to end up with like a little notch in the side of your stem. Alright, so there we have our bud sepals. Alright, so I just showed you guys the bud sepals. If you're making the sample flower stem, that's going to be, you only need 1 of these because we're only making 1 bud. And then for the larger flowers, we're going to make a very similar unit. This one is 10 continuous loops using 1.5 inches of beads per loop. And you need to make 2 of these, 1 for each of the flowers. Alright, now let's make some of our leaves for our Black-Eyed Susan. Again, I'm still working from the spool. I'm not going to be separating or cutting off any wire. My beads are already pre-strung, so I'm ready to go. Our small leaf is a 13-row basic frame with a 3/4 inch basic row and pointed top, pointed bottom, and 3/4 inches is about 1.9 centimeters for those of you on metric. So I've made a little loop right at the end of my wire that's going to hold all my beads from falling off. And I need to measure out 3/4 of an inch for my basic row. And I'm going to slide that about 1.5 inches away from the end of my wire. Then I'm going to take bare wire beneath and I'm going to fold it into a loop and cross it over right below my 3/4 inch basic row. Pinch and hold the basic row and the working wire with one hand, and then I'm going to twist that loop below. Alright, I've got my basic frame set up. I'm going to straighten everything out by pulling on the top wire and the bottom loop in opposite directions, just to make sure that my top and bottom wires are very straight. Alright, now we're ready to wrap some rows. We need 13 across. The basic row here is number 1, and we need a pointed bottom and pointed top. So I'm going to slide my beads down, make sure that they are below my basic row there. And I'm going to fold them up the side, right beside that basic row. And I'm going to pinch and hold those 2 rows together while I cross over this top wire here at a 45-degree angle to make a pointed top. Measure out the beads you need to reach that top wire. And then we're going to wrap that working wire around the back of that top wire. And then as you come back down over the front, we're going to be making a 45-degree angle with the basic row. Push all of your beads up and over that top wire so they cover it completely. So we've got 2 rows now, and we're about to start our 3rd row. I'm going to bring more beads down from my spool. I'm going to rotate my work because it is a little bit more comfortable to work at the top of a piece rather than awkwardly at the bottom. So I'm going to again fold those beads down right beside my basic row. I don't want any gaps between them. And then I'm going to cross over the bottom wire, the twisted bottom wire here at a 45-degree angle because we are making a pointed bottom. Measure the beads you need to reach that bottom wire and then move the rest out of the way. And I'm going to pinch and hold right there by that bottom wire to give me a little bit more control. And I'm going to wrap around the back and then to the front. And as you come back over the front, angle down, making a 45-degree angle with that basic row. Bring more beads down. And we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to rotate again. I'm going to pinch and hold all those rows together while I am getting that new row into position. That just helps you be able to measure out your beads properly. Cross over that top wire at a 45-degree angle. Again, make sure that your beads are reaching that top wire. And I'm going to pinch and hold, wrap, and then angle downward at a 45-degree angle. And I've rotated again. I'm going to wrap row number 5 now, is the one that we're on, down to the bottom wire, and I'm going to cross over at a 45-degree angle with that bottom wire. Wrap around the back, and then angle down. And we're going to continue around. Again, I am pinching and holding all those rows together to help keep them flat so I can measure out my beads properly. And I'm going to cross over at a 45-degree angle, around the back to the front again. Bring my beads all the way up. And as you're wrapping rows, make sure that you're keeping tension on these beads that you're wrapping around so that you don't get any gaps forming between them. Just kind of gently push down, down this way to keep the beads tight. And you can kind of mold your rows as you go. I've almost run out of twisted bottom wire at the bottom there, so I'm just going to twist a little bit more. Alright, so I have one more time around. Alright, so this is my last row here. So I'm going to tie off that working wire by wrapping it around 2 times really tight and close together right at the bottom of the leaf. And we are going to leave 3 bottom wires for this. So I've got a few twists down here, and I'm going to go ahead and untwist those so I can get a nice, a more, what's the word? I forgot the word. A nicer twist. I'll just go with that. So we're going to twist the working wire into these 2 bottom wires below. And then we can cut from our spool. Alright, now we're going to clip our top wire to about 1/4 of an inch. And then you can just fold that to the back side of your leaf and push it down really well. Alright, so this is the small leaf, and as you can see, it's a little bit, there's 13 rows, so our rows are kind of separating a little bit, so we need to lace across the center. Alright, so now we need to lace the small leaf. To do lacing, I like to use a 30 gauge wire. Normally I'd use the color that matches my beads, but today I'm using a different color so that you can see it on screen. I need to cut a length of this wire. It's going to be about 5 inches. And then I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm going to locate the front side of my leaf, which is this one. Back side will have the wraps on it and the front side does not. And I'm going to insert each of these wires, the ends of the wires, so that there's one on each side of the basic row. And I'm going to push them all the way through until the little loop in the middle of that folded wire catches around two of the beads, catches between 2 of the beads, somewhere in the middle of the basic row. So if you look at the back, you should have 2 wires sticking out of the back side of your leaf. We need to cross them so that they switch places. Oops, I let go. Okay, we need to cross them so they switch places, and that will form kind of a little loop around the basic row. Now I like to start in the middle so I can lace 1/2 of the leaf at a time. So I'm going to pinch and hold my rows together between my thumb and forefinger, and I'm going to mark where I want my lacing wire to go. It needs to be somewhat straight across the leaf. You can't always get it perfect, but we're going to try to do it our best. I'm going to insert this wire between the next 2 rows over away from the basic frame, or basic row. So this I believe is row 2, row 2. And we're going to go between those next 2 rows and push it toward the front side of the leaf and pull it all the way through. And then on the front side, we're going to insert that same end of the wire on the opposite side, the front side of that first row. That's right beside the basic row, so we're going to make a full loop with the wire around the row beside the basic row. And I'm going to pull it tight. I'm going to make sure that that wire went down between 2 beads on the front, and if not, then I'm going to pull it a little bit tighter. Alright, so we've got 2 rows in our lacing wire there. We need to add the next one. We're going to go all the way across. So again, I'm going to insert that wire between the next 2 rows over so that we can make a loop around the next row. Pull it all the way to the front. And then insert it on the other side of the row that we're looping around. And pull tight. Let me see if I can get in a little bit closer. Okay. So again, we're going to insert that wire between the next two rows and push toward the front. I use my nail to mark where I want that wire to go. So it'll act as a little guide to make sure it goes between the right two beads. And then on the front side, insert that wire on the other side of the row that we're wrapping around, so we can make a full loop around it. And I'm going to pull it all the way through. Now once you're around the last row of beads on the side, you actually need to loop around one more time to secure that wire. And then you can clip that wire off. And then tuck that little edge down if there is any. And then I like to flip my work over because I like working left to right. And I'm going to do the other side of my leaf. Now again, I'm on the last row on the edge, so I'm going to loop around twice. And then cut. Alright, so that is the small leaf finished and laced. You need to make 3 of these for a full stem of black-eyed Susans. Alright, now let's talk about the large leaf here. It's going to be made just about the same way, it's just a little bit bigger. The pattern for the large leaf is 15 rows on a basic frame using 1 inch of beads for the basic row, pointed bottom, pointed top, and you're going to have 3 bottom wires, and then you will also need to lace across the middle of the leaf. And you'll need somewhere around 6 inches of lacing wire for this one. But this is what it looks like when you lace with a color that matches your beads, is it's almost invisible. You need to make 2 of these for a full stem of black-eyed Susans.